What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, I'm finally, you guys have asked me 100 times, I'm finally going to be filming my parenting style, which is gentle parenting, how I parent my children, and how my daughter transitioned from foster care to my home. Also how my family transitioned from 1 kid to 2, because 1 is like 1 and 2 is like 20. Can I get an amen? If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has served time in prison, and my entire crazy life story is in the description box down below. If you want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever going to be $2. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel where you can see the behind the scenes stuff of my family and my wedding. Please go subscribe to that channel. I also have a podcast, and I'm a proud partner with Groups Recover Together. They are a both online and in-person treatment program. They strongly lean on harm reduction. I don't know why I said it like that. They're 420 friendly. They are an amazing team of people. They're expanding to states like crazy, so definitely go click on that link and see if they are available in your state. All right, without further ado, let's kick this thing off. I would like to start this video by saying I do not have a degree in early childhood development. I am not a professional. I am not a psychologist. I'm just a chick with a camera and with internet access. So I also do not want to come across as this is the only parenting style or this is the way or anything like that. This is just my own individual parenting style. Everyone parents different. As long as your kids are loved and cared for and, fed and clothed, that's the most important thing. So I don't want this video to be judgmental at all. You know your babies better than anyone else. Trust your gut, trust your instinct with every situation. Do want to start with that. I think there's just so much shame and stigma and judgment on the internet when it comes to parenting. And, fun fact, just because you're a parent does not mean you know how to parent someone else's kid. Every kid is different, every situation is different, every family is different, so please keep that in mind when watching videos like this on the internet. I am in no way, shape, or form trying to judge anyone else's parenting style. This is just how we do it. So just a little recap here, because it is important to the video and it's important to how I parent. If you don't know, my daughter was born while I was serving time in prison. That is very important to the story because having my daughter while chained to a bed was single-handedly the most traumatic thing I've ever gone through. And then she was ripped from my arms 2 days later, physically removed from me because I was not in my right mind and I didn't want to go back to prison and leave this baby that I just gave birth to. It was very traumatic. I will leave my pregnancy story or my birth story in the description box of this video if you have not seen it. I feel like the whole internet, the whole world has seen it. That video has popped up all over the place in articles and other channels, and it's heartbreaking, but it's important to talk about the things that women go through in prison. As a woman that's gone to prison, I want change, and these stories are important. I'm not the only person that has experienced that. But my daughter was placed into foster care. I did not know where she was going. I didn't know the family that she was going to. I had no contact with this family for months. That was very traumatic and very hard for me. After my daughter was born, I had a lot of time left in my sentence to think about what kind of parent I wanted to be. Now, realistically, I had no idea what kind of parent I was gonna be until I had my child, right? But I thought and meditated heavily on how I would parent, how I would respond to different situations. And although the idea that I had in my mind was very Joan Cleaver, the reality of it was a little bit different. But it gave me time to try to work through my own trauma as a kid and my own experience and the things that my parents got right and the things that my parents got wrong. And I really reflected on that. I really did. I wanted to be everything I never had as a kid. I wanted to be this perfect parent. And the reality is I'm a human. So, damn. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect at all. But I kind of want to talk a little bit, before we get into gentle parenting, I really do want to talk about how my daughter transitioned from foster care to living in my home. And this is something that I haven't really spoke on that much because this is, her story. But I will say there are a lot of parents following me that have been in a similar situation, or their kids, lived with family members while they were working on getting into a pathway of recovery, or they were in foster care, whatever the situation is. A lot of you have commented to me that you were in kind of a similar situation as me. So the first year was all about learning who Micah is. and what her needs are and how to be a parent and how to talk to her, how to cook. I could barely make spaghetti because my old life, my refrigerator was just filled with like takeout boxes. Like I was Lorelai Gilmoreing it up. You know what I mean? So I didn't cook, and I could make Pop-Tarts and coffee, but you should probably feed kids vegetables, right? So I'm like, what do I do? That was a really awkward, emotional, tiring time in my life. While I got custody of her when she was about 2.5, which was amazing and I was so grateful. But fundamentally, I didn't really know who Micah is because we didn't have a lot of time together. We only had a few weeks of overnight visits, and that was an exhausting time in my life where I was driving 4 hours, picking her up, driving home 4 hours on a Friday. We had Saturday, and on Sunday morning I had to wake up early, drive 4 hours to bring her home, or bring her back to the foster parents, and then I would drive 4 hours home. The judge denied my request to get a hotel room because that travel time was very stressful for Micah and myself. So the judge denied my request to get a hotel room near her because the judge wanted me to allow my daughter to acclimate to the home, which great. But essentially I didn't have a lot of time with my daughter before I received my full custody. Should the transition have been a little bit slower? I don't know. I worked for a little over a year to get custody of her, so maybe the transition was right, and maybe the timeline was right, but you don't know until you live with someone, right? And I'm living with my little baby, as weird as that sounds. Micah was uncomfortable being left alone. She was in a home with like 6 kids, and they were constantly doing all these things, and she really wasn't alone. She didn't have a bedroom that was her own, and she was used to that. So Micah had a very difficult time sleeping in her own room. And at that time, I took a lot of advice from other people where they're like, oh, she has to be independent, she has to sleep in her own room, or she has to do this, or she has to do that. And I let outside people tell me how to parent. Don't do that. You know your baby. You know your baby. So I created a schedule. I stuck to that. Every single night after I got out of work, I would pick her up from daycare, and we'd make dinner and then have a bath, and then for bedtime I'd read her like 10 stories, and I'd stay in there with her until she fell asleep so she felt comfortable. But she was waking up in the middle of the night and coming into my bed. And all of my family was like, oh, she needs to be more independent, or we can just bond and y'all can just shut up. I know, that was aggressive. You know your baby. The reason why I'm saying that is because the situation was very different than any other parenting style that any of my friends or family had dealt with at the time. So I wish I had listened to my instinct a little bit more and just kept her with me. Like, who cares? You know, I had a queen size bed. Girl, bring in your stuffed animals. I'll scooch over. And it is also important here to note that, yes, I was dating Reese, but I was not living with Reese at the time. Reese and I didn't move in together until Micah had been home almost a year, and Reese and I had been dating a year. So Micah had been home 10 or 11 months before Reese moved in. That's important because I just wanted to make sure that this is a stable person. Micah was also such a good toddler. You know, she didn't throw temper tantrums in the store. She ate vegetables. I mean, she was such a good kid. She listened to everything I said. She was just so easy. I'm saying that to say this. 1 kid is like 1, 2 is like 20. I mean it. When Riley came on the scene, every single thing that I thought I knew thus far completely went out the window. So when Riley was born, Micah was 4. Okay. Oh my gosh, it was so hard to delegate my time from 1 child to now a newborn and a 4-year-old. Now the 4-year-old is used to me playing puzzles with her and reading books to her and making cupcakes with her and playing with all these things, right? Like, she's used to having a lot of my attention throughout the day. Oh, if that's confusing, I was working full-time out of the home, and then when I got pregnant with Riley, I became a full-time student, and I was getting my degree from the house. I'm sorry if that was confusing, because I did say at the beginning that I would pick her up from daycare. So my life transitioned a lot over the next few years. So when Riley was born, I was a full-time student and had Micah. So I get out of prison. I get 2 jobs and then a steady job, and I learn how to be, you know, out of prison, in recovery, working a full-time job. Then I get my daughter. Then I learn how to be a full-time working mom outside of the home and have a daughter. Then I become a full-time stay-at-home mom and a full-time student and a mother of 1. Then I became a mother of 2 and a full-time student and a full-time stay-at-home mom. So I learned how to juggle 1 pin at a time. Now, Riley. Whew. Riley is a Sour Patch Kid, essentially. She is just an incredible mix of Reese and I, and she's very smart and she challenges me every single day. I'm obsessed with both of my children. I adore them, but they are very, very different. So I thought I had it under control. I'm good with one. I got this. This kid eats vegetables. Doesn't throw temper tantrums. We're good in here. This is easy. I'm like laughing at myself because of how naive I was. Like, I really underestimated how challenging 2 kids would be, because I'm like, we got this, it's fine. Then Riley came on the scene. She was colicky, then had acid reflux, then she started teething, and essentially what I'm trying to tell you here is she cried for a year straight. Like, she cried all the time. I felt like a failure as a mother. I was battling with postpartum depression, and when I tell you I felt like a failure, I mean I felt like a failure. I wasn't eating a lot, I wasn't sleeping a lot, I was so stressed out, I couldn't calm down my own baby. Then I have this sweet 4-year-old that wants my attention, and she's so used to having a ton of playtime with mommy, and I can't really do that, you know? So as much as I tried to get Micah to help me with the baby, and she was so great, you know, oh, pick out her little outfit for her, or do you want to help me wash her hair? And Riley was born with a ton of hair, by the way. Both Micah and Riley were born with a ton of hair. So I did my absolute best to have Micah, who was 4, help me with the baby as much as possible. You know, do you want to help me make a bottle? Do you want to help me do this? And then Riley started eating. Do you want to help me try to feed Riley? So I did the best that I could with that, but that was a hard transition in Micah's life, and it was obviously a very difficult time for Reese and I as a couple. Some of our hardest moments come from that year, the first year of Riley's life as a couple. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to tell him that I'm struggling with postpartum depression. I just thought I was a failure. You know, I didn't believe in putting your baby down and letting that baby cry it out. I didn't believe in that. But there were definite times where I had to put her in her crib and I had to step away for, you know, 2, 3, 5 minutes and just like step away for a minute and take a deep breath and go outside and catch my breath, because I was just crying in front of my baby that's crying, so my stress isn't helping, and it was just a very difficult time in my life. So let's talk about gentle parenting and how we've transitioned from that chaos of having a newborn and a 4-year-old to what my life looks like now. So today, Micah is 9 and Riley is 5. And oh my gosh, their personalities could not be further apart from each other. And I love that. I love watching how different they are and how they interact with each other. And we're gonna get into how that works into gentle parenting, but I am just obsessed with these kids. Like, you guys have no idea. I guess every parent says that, right? I don't know. I love my babies, and I love seeing how different they are and how they're growing and how their personalities are just really coming to life. So how do I parent? What is gentle parenting? What are your techniques? What do you do? Help me. Let's go over like the rules of gentle parenting. And when I say rules, I mean like they're very bendable. You know, like this is not rules that I follow to a T. They were just gentle guidelines for gentle parenting. Ooh, that's a good title. Gentle guidelines for gentle parenting. I like it. So the first one is respect. So I respect my kids. I am very mindful of the things that I say to them. I respect their emotions and their opinions, and I try my absolute best to listen, especially when they're struggling. So what does that mean? A really good example of that is when they're screaming at each other and like arguing and fighting, I don't just yell, shut up. Like, I really just wanna be like, stop, shut up. But I would be upset if my kid told me to shut up, so I'm not gonna tell my kid to shut up. I'm not gonna say that. As much as like inside I'm like, oh my, please shut up. You know, like at the end of the day, you're tired, and say you're trying to make dinner and the dogs are going crazy and the dogs are barking and there's a solicitor at your door and the kids are fighting upstairs, and like whatever you're cooking on the stove like boils over on the stove, and it's just complete chaos because my house is literally a zoo. Deep down, I just wanna be like, shut up. I don't say that. I firmly believe that kindness starts in the home, and as much as that might sound like cutesy or cliche, I fucking mean it. I mean it. Kindness starts here, and respecting their feelings starts here. And that kind of ties into like the second gentle guideline for gentle parenting, which is to empathize with their emotions. So we have a pretty good foundation of that now. So my kids know when they're really frustrated, if they're angry, if they're sad, if they're mad, if they're tired, whatever it is, my kids know now, and this has taken some time to work through, they know how to say, I'm really mad, I'm really sad, I'm really tired. There are days where Riley gets really mad. She gets really upset. And I used to have a horrible temper, and I kind of see that in Riley a little bit. So for this one, I'm really proud of Riley and her ability to let me know when she is angry. So because I recognized a lot of anger in her, where she might lash out and hit Micah, or she might hit the dog, or she might throw something down, or stomp her feet and run upstairs and slam her door. She has now been able to work through that, take a deep breath and say, I'm just really angry. And I've found that saying that out loud helps her a lot. You know, it helps me too, because I listen for those phrases that she says, and I listen for her to communicate with me her feelings. So that helps me immediately stop what I'm doing, she's short, so I get down at her level and we talk about it, you know, and I'm so proud of her for her ability to do that, because that's taken a lot of time, you know, as parents to work through with her. And I think as parents, we have to remember we're raising humans, like real ones, with their own personalities and their own little lives and their own stories. And I empathize with feelings of anger because I dealt with a lot of anger, right? So there are plenty of times where I'm frustrated and like I would love to throw myself on the ground in a grocery store and have a freaking temper tantrum because I am dramatic. So I get it. I understand wanting to stomp up the stairs or throw something, or I understand that frustration and anger. So because I can empathize with how she's feeling, I don't punish her for that. And I think that is kind of important when we're talking about gentle parenting. I do not punish my kids for expressing their emotions. As difficult as that might be for me, you have to think about what's going on in their minds and their lives, and I get it. I empathize, I understand. I want to slam the door sometimes too. I totally get it. So I would never punish my child for having a temper tantrum in a store, slamming a door, stomping upstairs, throwing something, or hitting. I'm not gonna punish them for that. However, it is really important to try to de-escalate situations like that and let them know that you understand and you're there for them. And I feel as though kindness goes really far in dealing with meltdowns and temper tantrums. And trust me, I'm not perfect at that at all. This is just trial and error. I've just learned a lot in my experience with dealing with, you know, Riley, who would throw temper tantrums, as opposed to having one kid that completely didn't. So I really was thrown off guard and kind of embarrassed. You know, when Riley would have temper tantrums, I didn't know how to handle it. What I do personally, and I have to do this a lot with Riley, less with Micah, because every kid is different. So if we are in Target, for example, and Riley wants a toy or something and I tell her no, and she sits down, she doesn't really throw herself on the ground anymore. It's gotten a little bit better. Even this has gotten better, but we still have moments where we're frustrated, right? Say she sits down, crosses her arms, and she's mad. I get it. I want to buy everything in Target too. So that is an emotion I can empathize with. I sit down next to her and I tell her, like, I know it's hard. I want to buy everything too. But this time, we can't get that toy. And that gets easier with practice, because at first your kid's gonna be like really upset. Like, I don't care what you say. That's the toy that I want. That takes time and practice. And I do not get this right all the time. There are plenty of moments where I'm tired and I've had a long day and I'm frustrated. I just want to run in the store for toilet paper and run back out. And Riley wants gum, which, don't even get me started on gum. We've had so many accidents with gum. There have been plenty of days where I just feel like I don't have it in me to try to de-escalate in a very calm way, and I'm frustrated and like, let's just get the toilet paper. So this is not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing our best, you know? We're just trying to do our best as parents. So empathizing with their emotions goes a long way. Let's talk about this in like an adult way, right? Because like all adults understand. Say I was so frustrated and I threw the remote or something and I was just so mad, and Reese was like, oh my God, calm down. Calm down. And he's like yelling at me. That's not gonna help the situation. That's gonna make me more mad, right? So why do we expect that our toddler, 4-year-old, 5-year-old is going to react positively to negativity and anger and yelling? Just something to think about. And this is not, I don't get it perfect all the time. The third little guideline here is to let kids make their own mistakes. So for us, in our home, this looks like Micah and Riley fight all the time, every day. They argue or bicker every single day. I used to intervene And I used to try to like separate them or work out their own problems. And I would try to delegate and I try to de-escalate the situation by throwing myself into it. And I realized over time that that probably wasn't the best. Like, how are they gonna learn problem solving techniques and how are they gonna work out their own situations if I'm constantly working them out for them, right? Also, that's fucking stressful. That is exhausting to multiple times a day try to stop your kids from fighting. And I just, no. So letting them work out their own problem kind of kills two birds with one stone. It's less stress on me and they're handling it. Now, of course, there are certain moments where I absolutely have to step in. This is super random, but I have really good hearing. Like it's crazy. I can hear almost everything going on in my entire house at all times. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know. I can hear everything, every footstep, every little argument that they're having. So I ear hustle and I listen to their conversations all the time, like without even meaning to. I can just hear everything. So they've made so much progress in being mindful of the words that they use, you know? So they were using words that were hurtful, you know? One day Riley said to Micah, "I hate you. I hate you." And she slammed the door. She left one room and went into the other room and slammed the door. And that just broke my heart. It broke my heart. So I let Riley calm down on her own. Maybe it's also important here to note that Micah is an extrovert. Riley is an introvert. Riley can play by her own for hours. Micah just wants to play with Riley. So that causes a lot of conflict too. So we've had multiple conversations with both girls about respecting boundaries, and Riley now knows to say, "I just want to play by my own right now." That is tremendous progress that has taken time. This is not instant pudding. You know, you gotta cook it. I don't know. This is not an instant thing, and this is not something that I get right all the time. I know I've said that 100 times, but it's really freaking important because all this sounds good. I mess up, I'm a person, and I get frustrated. But now Riley can tell Micah, "I just want to play by my own." And that has solved quite a bit of conflict in their lives. I don't know where I left off because my phone rang, but I really try to allow my kids to work out their own problems and their own arguments themselves. Number 4, I'm just gonna kind of go over like really quickly. It's to reset your expectations of normal. Every kid is different, you know, and I think that when we go into being a parent, we have all these expectations of what we thought it would look like. And then when we're actually parents, it's so hard. You know, I say all the time, like imaginary children are the easiest ones to raise. So when we started this journey, we're like, oh, I'm gonna be this kind of parent and that kind of parent. What? The idea that we're going to be these perfect people once a baby arrives on scene is just unrealistic. And I think we hold ourselves to such a high standard in parenthood, and it's so hard. There have been plenty of times where I felt like a failure as a mother, plenty of times, you know, where I yelled or I lost my temper or I got frustrated, or, you know, there have just been plenty of times where I felt like a failure because this is not perfect. This is really hard. We're raising humans. Like real ones, man. It's hard, it's very difficult. So reset your expectations. Normal is whatever you make it, right? And don't let other people tell you how to parent your kids. Of course you can go to people if you're struggling or you need advice, but at the end of the day, you know your babies, trust yourself, trust your gut, and don't let other people shame you for how you parent. Here's a good example. Micah, the firstborn, eats vegetables, never threw a temper tantrum, super easy kid, super, you know, happy and outgoing and extroverted and made friends really easily and like very, you know, super easy. I can't even take a lot of credit for that because that's her personality. And, you know, a lot of research tells us that kids are just gonna grow up to be who they are. While we wanna think that we have control over who they're gonna be, the science doesn't really support that, you know, but it is important to guide them, right? So Micah was super easy. Riley literally acts like it is a hate crime if I try to get her to eat carrots, broccoli, corn. She acts like she's being poisoned. But as frustrated as I was by that, because Micah's very different, all I can do is continue to try to reintroduce vegetables to her, and I sneak vegetables into things and she has no idea. For example, we eat veggie pasta. You know, she has no idea that it's veggie pasta and it's cauliflower. Sometimes the pizza that she's eating has a cauliflower crust, you know, I just sneak it in. I sneak some spinach and pasta sauce, like she doesn't know, right? You have to sneak it in. But what I do with this very picky eater is I just continue to try to reintroduce these foods every single day. And eventually she'll get it, you know, eventually we'll get there. She didn't even like plain white rice, but I think that she likes rice now. So just keep reintroducing foods and hope for the best. Throw some vitamins their way. They're gonna be fine. Number 5 is my absolute favorite one. It is the most important because it is. Take breaks and focus on self-care. Now that is easier said than done. I totally understand that. A lot of people don't have babysitters or money for babysitters or family support, but do your absolute best to focus on self-care. Even if that is, at the end of the day, take a bubble bath when the kids are in bed. Do something for yourself. Because if you're overtired, overworked, stressed out, like so many of us are, that's going to kind of bleed over into your parenting, right? Self-care. Self-care, it's so important. It's so important. I know some people that really pride themselves on being with their kids 100% of the time. But at the end of the day, you don't get a trophy for that. You get exhausted from that. Stress hurts your immune system too. So like you need a break. You need a break, all the breaks. And the last one is very important to them, to our children, is to give them attention. So something that I've implemented in my home, because I can only speak from my experience, right, is on the weekends my phone is off. If Reese and the kids are home, then my phone is turned off on the weekends. And oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how mentally that has helped me so much. And then after about 5 or 6 p.m., when everyone's home, on weekdays, my phone is turned off. Now this is especially hard for me because I work on my phone, like quite literally. So it's been difficult for me to turn it off. I have just found that my mental health is closely tied to how much time I spend on this stupid phone, and that I am a happier and more peaceful person when I take extended breaks from my phone. So on the weekends, my phone is off, and after 5 or 6 p.m. on weekdays, my phone is off. Let me just give like a really quick example of what that looks like give them your attention. If I'm on my phone and one of the girls comes up to me and they say something to me, or they need to talk to me, or maybe they have a boo-boo, or they're frustrated, or whatever it is, they want to show me something or sing me a song, whatever it is, I am very mindful that my phone, if I'm on my phone, right, I put it away. I set it down, and I give them my undivided attention. That means everything to them, you know? And that's really hard because we're super busy, right? Like, oh, just hold on, I'm busy. Just give me a second, just give me a minute, because we're all stressed out. It takes a lot of practice to be like, okay, please tell me this story for the 15th time. I am kind of on a deadline. So it's tough, right? To like mentally be like, just give her a few minutes of your undivided attention. So it has just personally helped me as a parent and a person to reduce the amount of time I'm on my phone, make sure they have my undivided attention, and we have a pretty good schedule where like they know a lot of days when they get home from school, I'm still at work, you know, so we have a pretty good routine where they'll come in, they can get their own snack because they're a little bit older. I mean, that is coming in clutch. They get their own snack, they do a couple of chores, maybe a little bit of reading or homework, and then we have screen time from like 3 to 4, and then I'm cooking, and Micah likes to help me cook dinner. So we're pretty routine and scheduled, where for the most part, unless there's like some crisis, like their sock feels weird, they're pretty good about leaving me alone when I'm trying to work now, but that's taken structure. As far as discipline goes, and I feel like this is gonna sound like a little strange, especially for those of us that were born in like the 80s and 90s, I don't really discipline my kids. Not really. I mean, of course there are times where like one of the two of them, or even both, they have to calm themselves down. So what we do is like, you have to go calm down. You have to go calm down, and then we're gonna talk about it, right? So we have moments of time out, or I might take something away. So if, say for example, if Riley hit Micah with her tablet, well, I'm gonna take the tablet probably. And that's kind of how we discipline. The punishment must fit the crime. I don't believe in physical violence. I don't believe in hitting my kids. I don't discipline in those ways. And all of the research is there. Spanking your children is not helping them in the long run. You can Google all of that. There's so many amazing articles on that. There's a lot of research that has been done around that. I do not hit my kids. I do not believe in hitting kids. It's just, definitely research it for yourself. It's never too late to change your parenting style either, you know, and if that was something that you thought was beneficial to stopping poor behavior, but now you've learned that that's not beneficial. You could always transition and change and no longer do that and implement other ways of punishment. So it's never too late to change, you know, an opinion or a parenting style or the way that you do anything really, right? So at the end of the day, if you're worried about being a good parent, chances are you're already there. As long as your kids are loved and fed and clothed and cared for and you're doing your best, you're killing it. There is no perfect parent, period. I'm definitely not perfect. Absolutely not. I really hope this video was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't just like me rambling the entire time, which I'm always worried about. So hopefully this helps some. Please keep in mind, I am not an expert. I don't have a degree. I'm just a chick on the internet, and this is just how I parent. A lot of you guys have asked me, so I don't want this video to come across as I know everything. I don't. I'm not an expert at all, period. I'm gonna end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you. Parenting is hard as hell. Be a little kinder to yourself, be gentle with yourself too. We're all just doing the best that we can. And I will see you guys in my next one.